Hey, what's up everybody? This is D with Kickin' Bass TV. Today we're out here in Lakewood at Kendrick Lake. So far we're just getting into some giant carp, but hopefully we're getting some bass. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below and stay tuned. Alright guys, so today we're starting out over at Kendrick Lake, and this is usually a pretty good spot for us. The last few weeks or so during the pre-spawn, we've pulled probably 20 plus bass out of here alone. So now that the water temps are starting to consistently stay above 60 degrees, the bass are definitely starting to spawn, starting to move up into the shallows. So we decided to give it a shot, throw over into the shallow end here, and hooked up right away. Now, while Colorado might not be the best state in the country for bass fishing, as you can pretty much cross state lines in virtually any direction and get into not only 2 to 3 times more bass, but bigger size bass on average, the fact that our state record sits about par with 40 out of 50 states on the list, and the fact that there are so many private bodies of water as well as private golf course ponds which are notorious for producing big bass is reason enough to get out and chase after those big bass. And since the majority of the fish that we caught during the pre-spawn in this body of water were sitting around 3.5 to 4 pounds, that's indicative of a very healthy bass fishery, especially for state of Colorado. And at first here, I thought that I had a pretty decent sized female, and she had drugged me into a couple of tree snags, so I wasn't quite sure at first, and then I started to see what it was as it began to surface. Now, unfortunately, it was a carp, but it was a pretty decent sized carp, and we have hooked it right through the top of the dorsal fin, right at the spine, so it pretty much had its full range of motion to swim and was putting up a hell of a fight. And when I realized that he'd barely hooked through the dorsal fin, at that point I was just trying to be as careful as possible to make sure that he didn't pop off, because most of the time I don't like to return these carp to the water, especially during the spawn, because they can totally disturb the beds and get in and wreck a bass population if it's already not that healthy. But we had a little girl standing at the shore watching us fish, so I didn't necessarily want to kill the fish in front of her. And this is a pretty healthy bass fishery here, as we've stated, so we didn't have a problem just putting it back in the water. We got a weight on it, came in at 6.3 pounds, and we just tossed it back in. After that, we decided to stop over at West Lake on our way home. This has been a spot that usually produces fairly well for us, especially considering that the lake itself hasn't been stocked for the better part of 15 years. And as we said, the name of the game during the springtime is covering water and following their patterns. You want to find where they're starting to bed down and what's going to be their preferred area to feed during the spawn. This seems to be that spot for this lake, so I like to throw here. And as we stated in the previous video, there's a drop off about 2.5 to 3 feet out from the shoreline here that goes from 8 inches of water to about 2 feet of water. Sure enough, we got another one suspending about 15-20 feet away from us here in less than 2 feet of water, and we had our first bass of the day. Not a huge bass by any means, but pretty decent size at just under 2 pounds. And it does go to show you that if you put the time in, cover some water, and learn the patterns at the specific bodies of water that you're fishing, they will start to produce for you. And if nothing else, you can get out and catch a couple fish a day and still have a good time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video today. As always, the best way to support us here is to hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to stay up to date with all the new release content, hit that bell notification right next to it. Until next time, guys, I'm D with Kickin' Bass TV.
Subscribe!